So in the last couple of videos, I have explained many concepts like the repositories, the entities, and also I have presented the architectures and the layers of the Spring Boot application. So right now I'm going to focus more on presenting the service layer as well as another layer which is the controller. So let's start by the first layer, which is the service. So with the usual method, we create a new package, we call it services like this. Then we're gonna create a new class, which is a service class. Here is it. So this, which is student service. So right now I'm gonna present you a new concept, which is the dependency injection. So what is exactly a dependency injection? Well, let me break down the dependency injection and let me explain it a little bit in theory. So, for example, let's imagine that we have a class, and that class is have some kind of, for example, let's say some kind of attributes that really are created here, and those attributes are coming from another class, which is, for example, let's say here it's class B. Yeah, here is class B, and here, for example, let's say it's class A. So as you could see, class A depends on class B for the creation of this for this object. So why do not change things and make things more easier? And by doing this, we're going to do another thing, which is just let me break down this, which is creating, which is receiving, which is creating the instance of the object of class B outside the class, which is gonna give more control or less control to the class A on that object. And that's what we call the dependency injection. We're gonna try to create that instance outside the class, and we're gonna try to inject that instance inside the class through a lot of approaches. For example, we have the constructor injection, which is the most useful and that we're the most used that we're going to use. And also we have another kinds of injections, like for example the set injection. So let us now focus on the dependency or on the constructor injection. So why am I explaining this? Because the dependency injection is a really a fundamental concept in the software engineering, especially in developing developing web applications. So that's why we're going to use the instance of the repository, and that we're going to try to inject into our service class through the constructor. So first, we're going to declare a final we're gonna declare a final class, which is a final instance, which is a private final. For example, here student repository, student repository like this. But we will have a method. We will have a problem because we will be obliged to add a constructor. That's why we're gonna add the constructor annotation, which is all args constructor. And here we go. The constructor or the dependency injection is finally established. And that instance of the repository, we're going to use it through multiple occasions here on our service class. For example, for saving some data, for retrieving some data, and also for doing some kind of business logic. Why not? So, for example, let's figure out our first method in our class, which is, and also I forgot to mention something. We need to add the service annotation, and now we're ready to go. And also, yeah, if we will need, for example, the annotation data alone box, we're gonna add it. But right now, I don't think that we will need it here. So let's now declare our first method, which is public. Let's say void. Well, void and void is a kind of return type which the method will not return anything. So save student, and in the parameter we will have a student. So yeah, like this. And we will have just a problem because we need to import that class because it is on another package. And here we're gonna call the repository student repository dot. And by the student repository we have a bunch of methods. For example, find here, as you can see, find. This is the method that we have defined. We have a lot of methods predefined, and they are all of them or most of them are based on the ID. Now we have the method save, so we're gonna save the entity student, and we're good. Yeah, this is the first method. This is our first service, so why not? So here in the service, we could, for example, develop as many methods as we can related to our business logic of the application. So last, we need to add another layer, which is the final layer, and it is the controller layer. It is a Java class. So here, yeah, I forgot something, which is the package. Lucky me because I didn't forget it. Controller, and here we're gonna add the student controller. Student controller. And this is the final class. So here we need to add also the dependency injection because we're going to try to inject the service inside the class. So here, private final, we will declare as final because it won't change. That's why we use final primarily. So it is the student service, student service, like here, student. Add the Lombok annotation, which is the all args constructor. And also now we need to add another annotation, which is the request mapping. So the request mapping here. And also, what is the purpose of the request mapping? It just indicates that this class will receive some requests, and those requests will match to this class. That is the request mapping. So now let's say that we do have some kind of method, which is saving some students, for example, or for example, some students or some data that will be coming from our front end or our whatever it is, just some kind of data that will be saved. So here we'll say save, or we will add another class. So I'm gonna try here to make things optimal. So I'm gonna add another class, which is the response entity. So what is the response entity? It is a kind of a class, or whatever you wanna call it. It is a kind of a class that is used in order to deal with data, and also it has a lot of functionalities. For example, it adds some status codes or something like that. And that's all. Yeah. This is the main purpose about the response entity. It is extremely used and it is extremely powerful to use it. Because we could, for example, return some kind of status codes or something like that, or something, some custom responses. Because in the end, we are using the HTTP request, so we are using the HTTP protocol. So that's why we are using the response entity. So yeah, and this is the method, a safe student. And yeah, we need to add the parameter, and the parameter will be the student. But here there's a problem because we cannot add just student here and student like that. We need to add also where this student will come from. It is from the request body. It is from the header of. It is from the request itself, from the parameters. That's why we're gonna add another annotation, which is the request body. And by that we will know that this student or this data will be present on the body of the HTTP request, and by that we're gonna make call to the student service. Let's save here. We have a save student here, and we're gonna save the student like this. Then we're gonna add a response entity. For example, here we have a lot of methods, and yeah, I need to configure something. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I will just check it here because I need to have a problem. I sure do have a problem here.